And so, beloved masters, bringing an understanding of what we could call practical application of magic in the daily affairs. People tend to either set magic as something so out of the ordinary that it isn't something that anyone would live with, or they turn their face totally to the practical side of life and again dismiss the fact that magic would have any place in the ordinary elements of life. And yet there was a time when magic was a way of life, and it was involved in all the elements of life. There was ritual magic for most every type of situation, and people simply felt very comfortable with the safety, the security, the insurance and assurance of what magic would bring. So, focus. Focus is a consideration of where you're putting your attention. Now, there are people who focus on the negative elements of life, and they hold their focus on the negative elements of life, but they aren't really considering that the focus will attract something that they don't want. So focus, in many ways, is a determination, a conscious determination of the emotional, intellectual climate of what you are creating for yourself, moment by moment, day by day. Concentration is, in many ways, an intellectual concept. And yet, to concentrate on the focus of positive energy and invitation into the life really deepens, intensifies, it concentrates the considerations of the desire that you would bring about in daily affairs. Concentration. You're making your desires more powerful. You're intensifying the essence of what you would bring forth. So, focusing on positive outcome, on a pleasant life, brings more and more of what you desire into effect. Worry is a form of focus, but it is not what we would call an intentional focus. It's more of a habit or an addiction, where positive focus is putting you in the frame of mind, of soul, that allows you to much more easily and thoroughly bring about what you desire. Discipline. And here the ego mind can get very uncomfortable, because the ego sees discipline as a point of confinement. That discipline is a denial of freedom. And yet, beloved masters, without the discipline, you don't keep your focus. You don't necessarily add depth, breadth, scope to what you desire to bring about. And discipline can be the reminder that says, where is your focus? And are you concentrating what you desire to bring into your life, or are you concentrating on things that you would really rather not have appear in your life or intensify in your actions and activities? And the time-space continuum is passing away. So time and space are functioning differently. And in many ways, that accelerates the timing, so that whatever you're focusing on, whatever the intensity of your concentration, if you're still being careless with your energy use, you may find yourself calling things into your life you didn't intend, and calling them very quickly. Many of you may be noticing that you have a thought, and if it's a worry thought or a fear thought, for example, I hope I don't fall down. And the next thing you know, you find yourself tripping or sliding or feeling off balance. You may not actually fall all the way down, but the ego mind might want to simply dismiss that close proximity of thinking of falling and then finding yourself in a position where a fall at least could take place. And the ego says coincidence. But as time is speeding up, as things are moving faster, what do you think can move into place quickly to get your attention? Pay attention. Because, dearly beloved masters, there is no such thing as an idle thought, because thinking is an action. And when there is an action, there has always been an equal and opposite reaction. And therefore, to just allow your mind to ponder the old negative thought forms can put you in a place very quickly where, yes, you may have been there before, but it isn't necessarily a place you want to find yourself again. So, focus is an alignment. Concentration is another element of that alignment. And discipline, and now you have a triune of energy, makes, if you would, a portal where what you desire can come to you. And at first it's very difficult. Partly, beloved masters, because the ego mind doesn't want you to become so disciplined. The focus, the concentration, and the discipline provide a balance so that you don't find yourself moving into the old, elusive rigidity of mind. Discipline is not a rigidity. And the ego says it's really tough, though. It's really tough to be so disciplined. It just doesn't allow you any freedom at all. The more comfortable you become with the fact that discipline, in many ways, provides a pathway that assists you to achieve more clearly, more readily, more easily what you desire. And discipline helps you to hold your focus on positive thought forms. For example, to be successful is something that the majority of humanity really desires to achieve for multitudinous different reasons. But success is a desired goal. So, how does it feel to be successful? When you achieve something that you desire, it doesn't have to be really huge. The satisfaction of a job well done, the achievement of something that you've waited for a long time, and that feeling of success. Feel it in your body. The energy primarily is, shall we say, stored in the area of the solar plexus, the soul center. But the truth of it is, when you began to feel for success, you may find that success imbues your whole body with an energy that is relaxing, expansive. Some people might even say delicious. It has a luscious feel. It has such an exquisite energy that you can almost taste what success is like. So, keeping your focus on success requires the discipline that when you start moving out of focus of success, the discipline simply reminds you, and where is your focus? Where is your focus? Are you allowing the ego mind to move your focus back to the negative end of the creation meter? Because you're not going to really find things that will stimulate your sense of success if you are indulging in worry, fear, doubt, or going over all of the proof you have gotten that the success you desire either hasn't happened, isn't going to happen, or it happened and it got interrupted or taken away from you. So being clear, focus requires clarity. Concentration, once you began to feel that energy of success, to allow yourself to build on it, build with it, so that that feeling of success deepens. It gets richer. It becomes, yes, more intensified. But as with things such as food that are called concentrates, when you add liquid, it brings them down to something that is actually easier to take in. So, as you concentrate on success, add love. And as you add the love, it allows success to become even easier to assimilate. Energetically, it makes it easier, if you would, beloved masters, to swallow. And since truth, soul understanding, the recognition of the virtues, all are more readily accessed through the area of the stomach, then making sure that what you focus on and the appropriate consistency of the concentration allows what you desire to be palatable or easily swallowed, not as in gullibility, but as in when it is palatable, then you tend to take it in much more readily. You tend to digest it much more easily. And bringing your magic to a palatable, digestible place so that you allow yourself to nourish the growth of your magic, your divine creative ability, and you encourage it, you augment it through focus, concentration, and discipline. Things that you desire in life. And you may find yourself pondering something that you really wanted. A desire for business to increase. But the ego mind wants to go into all of the old, difficult, tedious elements of hard work. This is what you do, and this is how you do it. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And I keep going over this particular aspect because the ego mind wants you to forget about it. The step 1, step 2, step 3 are all intellectual pursuit. And it is, beloved Master, to know that once you follow that formula, step 1, step 2, step 3, the first time you change the energy of how you personally respond to the formula. So as we speak of focus and concentration and discipline, where your focus is on best possible outcomes in this time is an accumulation of steps you have taken, formulas you have fulfilled, things you have released, many of them in very recent times, since 2012, when a lot of the focus of the old order really began to break apart and blow away in the wind. And so, beloved masters, it may be easier now to focus, and it may actually be easier to keep the focus on something positive. It may be that there's still a bit of rebellion from the ego about discipline. But you're changing your accessibility to what you desire for your life with each ritual, with each spell, with every meditation. And this is where you really require to pay attention. Where is your focus? Because if you're concentrating something you don't want, it's still going to be woven into the fabric of your creative energy. So being very aware, paying attention that your focus is on what you desire, so that you concentrate that passion, that energy involvement, and the discipline actually is not an intellectual process all that much. It really is, now that I am focused, now that I am concentrating, is everything lined up and directed toward what I really desire? Rather than I've taken this time to focus, but I didn't pay a great deal of attention exactly where I focused. And I'm concentrating. I want. Beloved masters, do understand, I want to do the right thing. I want to be rich. I want to be a good person. I didn't mean to do what I did. And the more that you are focused and concentrated and disciplined about the energy you're using and where you're directing it, the more sensitive you're going to become, seeing without eyes, hearing without ears, the more sensitive you're going to become to hearing the whine of the ego voice. I didn't mean to do that. Or I want to be a good person. And the focus, the concentration, the discipline, again makes some adjustments, not only in what am I seeing when I focus, but what am I hearing when I focus? Because if you desire to create success, then you don't want that whiny voice of the victimized ego involved in your focus on success, because that whiny voice is a victim. And victims are not able to really allow success. Because when you succeed, dearly beloved masters, you're no longer a victim. There really are no victims. Victimization is an assumption that what I want should be given to me. If God really loves me, then why doesn't God just give me what I want? Because God loves you. God is willing for you to have everything you desire that is for the highest good of yourself and all concerned. But it is, beloved masters, if you are just handed what you want, then there is a tendency to disrespect it. And the ego mind may, and again you hear that whiny little voice of victimization, the ego may say, well, I thought mastery was going to be easy. And it is, beloved masters. Once you appreciate the tools, once you are willing to utilize the virtues, once you focus and clearly keep your intentions, discipline yourself to make sure that your focus is on positive outcomes. And yes, beloved masters, there is a balance in all things of positive and negative. But humanity, through the illusion, has turned progressively more and more to inserting negatives in the considerations. So it isn't about worrying if you are getting an appropriate amount of negativity to be a part of a good recipe of positive. It is that focus, concentration, and discipline to bring in an appropriate amount of positive to make sure the balance of the mix is more to the positive side. So, the old ways will still attempt to draw the mind back into the illusion, the limitation, old belief systems, excuses, defenses, explanations, and paying attention to the instant argument the ego wants to put up of defending why I'm not focusing as much on the positive, or why I want to do this. And doing whatever it is far more important than creating a positive foundation and building success on it. Oh yes, success. How quickly the mind, in its diversion, will forget what the point of the whole thing was. Oh, success! Yes! Oh, yes! As the mind goes this way and that way, and as we identify distractions, the mind goes along with the distractions. Now, what were we talking about? It seemed at the time that it was a rather interesting subject, maybe even important. But I forgot. Focus, concentration, and discipline. And the more that you utilize them, tools of a master for working with divine creative energy, the easier it gets to keep your focus, your attention, in a disciplined way on what you desire to bring about. Because the ego mind actually spends a great deal of its time studying the way you're doing things, the fact that you're doing less than you used to, how the energy of allowing works even though the ego mind doesn't really grasp allowing. It's different. It's different than what you have been told for a long time, lifetimes. So the ego looks at the energy of allowing and then begins to prepare diversions, defenses, deceptions to draw you away from what you're attempting to create. So let's look for a moment at what is going on the planet. In the breaking down of the illusion, the old order had, shall we say, a prescribed recipe for what it would do. A republic is a walled city. It's closed within itself. It doesn't hold an open invitation to outsiders. It stays within its walls, and it doesn't invite ideas, concepts that would change things. It closes down on itself, and it attempts to keep the people inside the walls from interacting with those outside of the walls unless they have validation and verification that they're not going to disturb what's going on inside of the walls. And the earth has moved in this 21st century a considerable distance from where it was at the beginning of 1990, because the energies began to change then, and as the energies refined and everything really began to expand, move outside the box, get outside the walls, humanity began to feel different inside of itself. Some people actually began to feel more successful. Children that many of them are under the age of 25 are becoming billionaires, when before the new millennium began, it was a struggle for anyone to really become a millionaire. But by the time the year 2000 moved into place, there actually were more millionaires on the planet than ever before. But it really isn't about the money, though the ego mind would attempt to make it about the money. It really is about the liberation of the limitations that have been held so tightly by the illusion. So success is actually becoming an identifiable, self-empowering essence. And to focus not on what do I do about this, but on how good success feels. And discovering, beloved masters, laws, decrees, limitations, lineage issues that would, at some point in the movement, the expansion into living successfully, these obstacles would present themselves when you are focused, when you keep your attention on what you desire to create, then the discipline of holding that desire allows you to notice when impediments slide into place, because the ego is still definitely looking for anything that it can possibly do to stop you from achieving what you desire. And success, dearly beloved masters, is an all-encompassing idea. Success in relationship, but not just an intimate relationship, because there's a lot of lonely people on the earth. And yet, if intimacy begins to move too close, they have many excuses, defenses, and explanations of why they really can't allow themselves to get too close to someone else. So, intimate personal relationships, yes. But friendship and the ease of relating with people that you don't know. Because as you succeed in accepting yourself, then your success level with accepting others begins to expand, broaden, go beyond the walls of the city. Moving outside of the box, or stepping beyond the walls. The more you feel success within yourself, the more there is a sense of buoyancy that you actually begin to feel. It isn't actually an idea of the finite mind at all. It's simply not a conceptual situation for the mind. But you begin to feel as though you could just think yourself over the wall, and that feeling begins to produce, what would we call it? A mini video. You feel yourself moving over the wall, and then you see yourself just up, floating, lifting. Maybe you're jumping, maybe you're flying, maybe you're just lifting up as though hands are helping you to rise up and over the obstacles of the illusion. Overcoming the confinements of everything you can't do and beginning to focus in a very concentrated way on allowing yourself to appreciate, yes, I can. I really can accomplish what I desire. I am successful. And it changes relationships. And most any time that you talk to someone about achieving success in a business sense, the first place that they go is, I don't have the money. Knee-jerk reaction. I don't have the money. If I had the money, I could do anything. Now, beloved masters, you can do anything. So, having the money isn't really the issue. It's changing your focus. The money, as humanity might put it, is putting the cart before the horse and making things difficult to achieve. So, as you focus on success, success is the allowing of your desired achievements. And one of your desired achievements in success is to prosper, to have plenty. And pay attention, discipline, focus, pay attention to how your mind wants to follow the same old patterns of limitation that it has. So focus, concentration, and discipline began to assist you to be aware of things that you've done for lifetimes, many of them. They are so much a part of your beingness that they're like your breath. The whiny voice of the victim, the cutting voice of the critical judge, the feelings of shutting down, closing off, when you find yourself in a situation that isn't familiar or feels uncomfortable. Rather than blessing the situation and remaining open to discover what lies beyond the walls. Because if you stay inside of the walls, you will become progressively more frightened. Because there are horror stories about what lies outside the walls. The walls are to keep you safe. But it is, beloved masters, how safe are you when you have no clear understanding of more? Of how much more is there for you, how much more you deserve, how much more you're capable of creating, how much more you can have if you're willing to allow yourself. And as you step beyond the walls, the admonition of authorities telling you what you can and cannot do began to diminish. And I can absolutely assure you, I will assure you, as though I underlined these words with a dark marker so that they will be boldly implanted. Mastery is not an estate of doing what you damn well please. And a lot of people have gotten the idea in the movement into the new energy as the old order's breaking apart, as there isn't as much confinement, as there are not as many illusions, that they should have anything they desire. Now, we're not denying that God would empower that anything that is for the highest good of all concerned would be gladly shared. But it goes back to mastery is not for the faint of heart. It isn't that as you become a master, everything just gets given to you. For one thing, beloved masters, the nature of a human being is not to just do nothing. But where is the focus on what you're creating? How would you achieve your good? How would you bring about your success? Are you somewhat unfocused because you're focusing your attention on negative? Or are you powerfully focused because you are allowing the discipline to hold that focus in the positive realms of the creative meter? So achieving success isn't necessarily a formula. Do this, do this, do this, and you never have to do it differently. It's more like putting together ingredients in a recipe. And it may be one of your most favorite recipes after a time, the recipe for success. But every time you make the recipe for success, you change it a little. This time, your success might be about healing your body, healing your emotions, healing wounds that have been with you through the illusion, helping yourself to just feel better generally. And the success of that well-being requires a little bit different measure of ingredients to have the desired success, whereas if you are desirous of creating good relationships or desirous of prospering in what you desire to achieve, you're going to add different things to the mix. To allow yourself to notice perhaps ingredients you've added to the recipe in the past that at that point in time seemed perfectly fine, and now, as you're moving more into alignment with success, those ingredients may seem inappropriate. It may actually have an effect on your stomach. I don't believe I can digest those ingredients as I once did. Because you grow and you outgrow. You heal and you become stronger. You refine and you become much more aligned with a greater awareness of all that you are. So the ongoing empowerment of expansion, of going beyond the walls that the illusion built. The illusion put you inside the walls and said, you're inside the walls so you can be protected. And the ego mind has simply repeated that. I'm inside the walls for my protection. And the admonition of those who keep you inside the walls is don't even think about what's on the outside of the walls. Because if you go outside of the walls, then we probably won't let you back in. Because you have to make a choice. You either stay behind the walls or you go out into the unknown. and masters are waking up and beginning to remember, beginning to feel. I remember what's outside the walls, and that's freedom. That is who I am. I am myself outside of the walls. And now, beloved masters, on the earth, as magic is returning, as the ancient ways are being remembered, as masters and magicians and ancients and those from many different realms that at one time all worked together, were unified, not always totally in agreement, but still clear that the unification allowed them more. So, as the expansiveness that helps you to remember who you really are is being revealed, there are those that are very aligned with the old ways who suddenly want to build walls, who want to, more than ever, divide the world and put people in boxes, compartmentalize, and segregate, putting things, quote unquote, back the way they were, the way they're supposed to be, where certain people are considered less and held inside the walls of those judgments. That there are certain people that require privilege and a majority of the people that don't really deserve it. And it is, beloved masters, practical magic is you living your life in a greater, clearer, more profound understanding, recognition, realization that you are the designer of your life. You are a co-creator with God. And it isn't about going back, because here you are, 17 linear years into the new millennium, and things have moved so far out of the illusion that there really isn't a way back. So attempting to go back or to rebuild what was before is actually like attempting to resurrect the dead. And it is, beloved masters, when you put your focus, your concentration, and your discipline on living, when you focus on the ongoing rather than the end, when you can forgive, I'm not there yet, because you hear the energy of those words and realize there's no there. So I'm not there yet is a deterrent phase of the ego mind from the illusion. You're here. You're now. This is where you focus your attention. This is where you concentrate your energy. This is where you allow the discipline to increase your conscious awareness so that you discover things that have been, shall we say, running in the background, that were preventative measures, obstacles to your growth, negative admonitions that didn't come all the way to the front, so you could not know why. You would come to a point where you didn't seem to be able to move any further. And the focus and the concentration and the discipline began to assist you to align your energy now so that we have called it what the ego's doing behind your back becomes obvious. And it isn't about trying to stop your ego. It is about focusing on forward motion. It isn't about leaving yourself to go forward. If I could just get there, but that leaves you behind. Now, energetically, where you are, where your physical form is, now is the only safe place there is. But now, in alignment with the truth of who you are, you change where you're going. The addiction to negative thinking begins to lessen. And either those walls fall down or you rise up. Ascension. It means rise up. coming up over the limits that you have experienced for lifetimes. Rise up. So, the empowerment as you are focusing on success and it isn't about focusing on money. It's about focusing on success. Because, dearly beloved masters, there are elements of success that money cannot buy. Love. Money cannot buy love. So, people can have great amounts of money and not have any idea what it is to be rich. Not have any idea what it is to be successful. And money is a very cold relationship. Money doesn't warm you at night. Money doesn't listen to how you feel. It is an absolutely imperative and natural aspect of masterful creation. And I say that, and in these times the mind may go to the euro or the dollar or the pound or the franc but it could be stones. At one time, during biblical times, the exchange was salt. But whatever the currency of abundance, as it changes, the willingness to prosper, to be successful, to be able to say, I am rich, and not feel guilt or shame or aversion or doubt. People can say prosperous, they can say wealthy, well-to-do, well off. They can say abundant. But when that word rich comes up, a lot of people pull up the walls. Because a part of the teaching of the religions throughout the times has been that God is affronted by the rich. That it's not godly to be rich. And yet, there are those who are wanting to build walls so that they can stay rich. And they will push aside the feelings of guilt or shame or judgment. They will harden their heart, darken their mind, and be willing to do anything, not only to be rich, but to prevent others from being rich. The truth, beloved masters, as you focus on success in connection with your spiritual value as a master, as you focus on success in every area and element of your life. We have talked about the big three: love, money, health. And most everyone will allow themselves one of those. Some people will allow themselves two. But it's very rare, at least it has been in the illusion, for someone to allow themselves a broad accessibility to love, to money, and to health. Because there's that old law, there's a price on your good. And as you keep your focus, as you concentrate on your desire, as you discipline yourself to pay attention now, you begin to bring up, to see, to hear these old laws that have limited your life and dwindled it down to an existence. There's a price on good. There's no free lunches. And yet, beloved masters, gratitude is a door opener to all manner of abundant flow, of riches. Gratitude. Being grateful for how your life is moving, how it is expanding, how it is improving. Where's your focus? You won't be noticing it's improving if your focus is on worst possible outcomes. But to be grateful, as you begin to notice, the more you focus in the positive side of the creation meter, the more wonderful things, loving things positive things, synchronistic things happen, great and small. So your focus, your concentration, your discipline, all assist each other. And in many ways you could say that focused concentration in an energy that keeps turning you to the positive direction support you in such a way that you keep having mountaintop experiences. Those incidents in life that lift you up, that broaden your horizon, that expand your view, that open your perspective, and cause you to feel that you are experiencing life from a new level of high. But it isn't like the highs of illusion that I experienced a high and now I've got to go higher until I burn myself out. And that really is how the changes can work. Not that they'll burn you out, but that they keep lifting you higher as you allow it. Where is your focus? And you even began to realize this is advanced spiritual law, and yet it functions in the ordinary, in the mundane, in the day-to-day, and takes all of that, the ordinary, the mundane, the day-to-day, and lifts it to a whole new level of life experience. It's practical because it is a way of life. But it also has a dynamic that not only changes what you've been experiencing from struggle to living, but it is, beloved masters, you began to really realize the more that you are feeling means you can't go back. You've outgrown the walls. You're moving beyond the limits. And the more that you integrate, the more you find that you can comfortably move in the energy of interdependence. the absolute recognition that, yes, you're a success and you're becoming more successful, and yet you cannot become a success all by yourself. There are people who talk about being team members, but their idea of being a team member is to be the boss. And that's not being a member of the team. That is setting yourself apart from the whole. So, to feel interdependence as a part of your toolkit for success. The humbleness, not humility, as in humiliation, but being humble. I really can't do this all by myself. And yet, the very acceptance that I am unable to create my greatest life all by myself is a part of my acknowledgement and even a part of my forward movement in success. That the more becomes an element of the practical magic of daily life. I live my life more. Not I want more or I need more. It isn't about the desperation of not having. It's about the expanded awareness and absolute acceptance. There's always more. Even when your finite mind comes to the point where it feels the walls are safe, because you don't have to aspire to more inside the walls. You don't have to think. You don't have to make choices. Oh, beloved masters, of course you make choices, because everyone on this ball is a master, and if you are a master, you make choices. Even saying I didn't have a choice is a choice. But choosing to be inside the walls, where it's safe, quote unquote, is a choice that has its own path. So, choosing for less because it's a sure thing. Choosing to be small because you don't have to reveal yourself. Choosing to be an unknown and then living in the rage of not being recognized. And it's choices. Choosing to be recognized and then loving yourself so well that being recognized is not deadly exposure. Because in the illusion, a lot of people have put themselves before the world. whether it was through an art, actor, musician, poet, painter, whether it was through being a teacher, whether it was through the political scene or the religious path. Many people have put themselves before the world and then felt such fear, such trepidation, that it was almost, for many of them, it appeared easier to just die than to have to make the choices that come with putting yourself before the world. What would they say about what I feel, what I think, what I choose? What would they say? What are you projecting on them? What have you decided that they would say, are saying? Dearly beloved masters, preconceived notions of what they would say keep you inside the walls. When you move your focus to the positive area of creative potential, rather than what would they say is going to be some degradation of your character, what they say is positive, powerful, supportive, uplifting, respectful. And when your focus is on the negative end of the creative meter, then you're so sure they couldn't possibly say anything good about you that you cannot dare make a move or change that might bring what they say to you. So, focus, concentration, discipline. Are tools that assist you to move beyond the limits of everything that you have been taught in the illusion, and truly, and I use the word truly in its finest sense, truly, you are beginning to discover so much about yourself that had been put away, that you wouldn't look at, that you couldn't let yourself know, that you feared because if they find out who I am, will they still love me? Do you? Can you love you, accept you, own you, live you as the master you are on a daily basis? This isn't about slipping into the closet and dressing like royalty. This is about living your life so well that you appreciate, you feel that sacred art of living you. And realizing you don't have to put on a costume. You don't have to dress or act like royalty, because when you finally accept that you are, you won't have to play a part, fulfill a role. You will recognize, dearly beloved masters, that you are royalty, each and every one. Royalty in blue jeans and a t-shirt. Royalty in Nikes and a hoodie. Royalty in the country, in the city, in a small town, in a large one. Royalty in the hood, in the ghetto, as well as royalty in the house on the hill. But as you really focus and concentrate and stop struggling against the discipline, those in the house on the hill will not be judged differently from those in the ghetto. It will simply be recognized for the experience of the thing. These are the choices that this master has made. But the ghetto won't be a prison. And truthfully, beloved masters, neither will the house on the hill. Because it's your life, your choices, your delight or your castigation. And so, dearly beloved masters, to really feel, because what we have spoken about this evening isn't an intellectual process. I've got to think about it. Oh, please don't. Feel it, live it, integrate it, recognize it, put it into effect in your life. That makes it practical magic. and it's accessible 24/7. You're never without the capability to utilize your creative tools well. Some might say gratitude is a virtue. It certainly allows you to appreciate the virtues. It strengthens your faith. It opens your awareness of yourself. It strengthens your love. It allows you to be accessible rather than dominated, controlled, or possessed. Because in the accessibility of love, you are the master who has dominion over your affairs. Your choice. They kept me from creating the life I desire. Only because you chose choice to allow it. I want to be in a relationship. I want to be happy. And wanting it keeps it separate from you. And yet, it takes so much courage to walk to the wall of your fear of intimacy. What will they think of me? What are you thinking about them? Because that becomes the magnet that draws the kind of people into your life, perhaps that you fear, until you really love yourself, and then perhaps they'll be the ones that are just what you've been looking for. They don't like me. It's a mirror. They are so different. They're so strange. It's a mirror. But I want people to function the way I'm familiar with. Really? You haven't particularly enjoyed a lot of the relationships you've had with people that were familiar. So give yourself permission to step outside the walls and have interrelationships with people that are unique, like yourself. And be grateful for their differences, which, as you will allow it, assist you to really appreciate, enjoy, be grateful for your uniqueness. It isn't about how weird people are. You're all masters. You're one of a kind. There are many things that are similar, and there are a lot of things that aren't alike at all. But as you gently, lovingly, consistently keep moving your focus into the positive field of the creative meter, as you concentrate your desire for more, and as you discipline yourself to keep your attention on what you're desiring to create rather than what you don't want. To forgive saying you want something when you know without the shadow of a doubt that isn't really what you want. But when you look, you can't really decide what you want. Or saying you want something and then discovering that you don't understand what that means. And more you can put planning into the violet flame. Because planning is rigid. It generally is infected with battle strategy. And much of the concept of planning has been brought to you inside the wall. And masters don't need walls, because they're clear enough in love that boundaries are not barriers. Boundaries are your own personal recognition of your deservedness as a master to have space. But the space that you allow yourself isn't someone else's space that you're taking, and they're not going to come and take your space. But it is the clarity that that sacred space is sanctified. And there are those that you really trust intimately that are allowed to be with you in your own Holy of Holies. But that doesn't mean judgment. It simply means honouring, respect, and owning the sacred potential of your creations. And so it is, beloved masters, in the greatest of love. We are with you every step in love.